for a special webinar where we are going to discuss architectural finishes and role of site architect. So here I would like to introduce our speaker for the day, architect Jyotsna Joshi ma'am. She is a chief architect at Larsen & Toubro ECC division of L&T Construction. It's an international construction company based in India. Many of you must have heard this name and seen the boards all over the place wherever you are in the country. And actually she's heading the finishing team, or she's the finishing head for building and factories independent company, which is called BNFIC, which constructs airports, institutional buildings, hospitals, hotels, residential towers, factories in India and also abroad. So architect Jyotsna Joshi ma'am has graduated from Academy of Architecture, Mumbai, and has 35 years of experience in various facets of profession. She has worked in architectural firms like Stalin Doshi Bhalla, Design Group, Arcom in Delhi, and Sidco Aurangabad, Natraj and Venkat Chennai. And she has also taught, she is also a teacher for quite a long time at MIT and JNEC Aurangabad, and also BNCA, which is commonly known as Cummins in Pune. So she has traveled many places in the country, and she has worked in different areas, including teaching and consultancy. And she is also founder member of Computer Aided Interior Design course in BNCA College Pune. And she has headed the Architecture Forum Mohile Parekh Center of NCPA for some time. And recently she's in Larsen & Toubro, where she joined in ECC division as a chief architect in 2013. And ever since, she has been working as a finishing head, and she is a very dynamic person. I know from my personal experience, she has guided teams, she has formed strategies, she has implemented various methods to improve the finishing of projects executed by L&T, and the results are phenomenal. So I have known Jyotsna Joshi madam through my days in L&T. I had the privilege of working in L&T for a few years, and I was there as a principal architect and design team. So although I and Jyotsna ma'am were not in the same team, but we were from the same fraternity of architects, and we interacted a lot. And she's always inspired me, and she's a very positive person with a very positive vibration. And she always inspired all the architects who were there in L&T, and we always looked up to her for guidance and mentorship and inspiration. So we have kind of a bond over there, which I'm glad to have. And I'm really glad, ma'am, to have you here on our platform. And we are really enlightened. We want to be really enlightened with your work today. And we want to learn about what is the importance of finishing architecture projects and role of site architects in construction industry. So welcome, ma'am. Warm welcome to you on this platform.
Thank you, Snehal. Thank you so much for the introduction. I didn't know it will last so long. So really thank you, and many congratulations to you actually for launching this forum. It's a much needed forum because, as you very rightly say, architecture is such a diverse field and all encompassing field. And after you graduate, after you do 5 years of rigorous training, everyone thinks many times that they can only go in for hardcore designing. But nowadays there are so many venues open, and very less venues where you can find in one consolidated place all the options available to you. So really congratulations once again for founding Architects of the World. It's really a very unique and much needed forum. And I'm sure many of the architects, fresh and practicing, will take advantage of the platform that they're offering, that you are offering. And I'm sure many people would be more satisfied in their professional lives, because, many times it so happens that after you pass out, you realize that, you have more inclination to allied fields than the hardcore architecture field. So congratulations once again, and I'm very happy to be here with everyone. And I hope, whatever knowledge I share with everyone is useful to you. So my focus would be actually giving what the audience is looking at in terms of whether what the site architect role entails, and if you are at the crossroads of making a decision, I hope this talk clarifies in your mind all the aspects of being a site. So happy to be here.
Okay. Like now, without having any delay, we'll start. What the term architectural finishing means and how important it is for construction of projects. So let's start with our first very basic question here.
Yeah, actually it's true, Snehal, what you say is absolutely right. Architects will conceptualize their vision in their mind, and then they translate it into drawings. And once it comes to the site, it is our responsibility to translate that vision into reality. So it is the site architect's job and the contractor's job actually to look at what he's conceptualized and give it to him as close to his vision as possible. So, and it's not possible if you do not have good workmanship or if you do not have good processes. So, it is very imperative that the quality of construction is good. Now, your second question was what exactly is architecture finishing? So there I would, since everyone is kind of fresh into the field, we have more audience who are, younger. So I will try and give a very simple analogy. It is, any project we can divide into three main parts. One is the structure part, one is the finishing part, and the third is the services part. So if I were to give a human analogy, it would be like your structure would be like your skeletal system. So in technical terms, the structure would be, your foundations, your rafts, your columns, your beams, your slabs, all that. So you will have that as your base. On that, your finishing will go. So that is like a skin. I would equate it to a skin in a human being. And the third, the services are like the various systems that we have in our body. We have our circulatory system, our digestive system, your nervous system. So that help an organism to function. So basically, these are the three major components of any building. And what exactly in technical terms, or what are the traits that are involved in finishing? We would say the major traits that are involved in finishing are masonry, that is brickwork, blockwork, plaster, different kinds of plaster, then different kinds of flooring like your marble, tile, stone, different kinds of wall finishes, different kinds of ceiling, your glass envelope or the facade, your external works, your landscape works, your podium works. So all these traits or items which actually give the visual aspect to any project are grouped under the umbrella term of architecture. And I think your third question was how is it important? For that, I would again give an example. If you see a building coming up and only the structure is done, you will not be able to make out if it is a mid-segment building or elite building, or maybe a budget building. But once you start seeing the finishes coming up, you're immediately able to identify whether it's a mid-segment building or a luxury building from the finish, from the external finishes. If you go into it, if you see a marble or Italian marble or glass envelope, and you see a gypsum plaster and you see false ceiling, then you will kind of feel that it's a luxury building. But if you see a ceramic tile and just paint maybe with putty, then it kind of indicates that it's a budget project. So one of the things that it does is it will benchmark your project at a particular price segment. The second thing it does is actually it gives an ambience or a character to any space. You know, let's take a room for instance, and supposing it's a bare room, you can very easily convert it by a choice of materials into maybe a Japanese minimalistic room or a Baroque room, or maybe a Scandinavian minimalist room. So depending on the finishing materials and the detailing that you choose, you can change the ambience of a room completely. I hope that kind of gives a overview of what the finishing does and what is involved in architecture finishing.
Yeah,
If
so it's
any doubt, please put it up in the chat.
yeah, put it in the chat box. But so I gather that this is like the first impression of the building, the development we're getting through the finishing. So it is helping us in creating an ambience and also helping the developer or the institute, whoever is the client, to price their product. So it's very important role that finishing is playing. But usually everybody is under the impression that finishing is controlled by the site people who are executing the project. So I wanted to ask you, do architects have a say in finishing? How do they contribute to the finishing?
Okay, yes, to answer your question straight, architects are the major players or the major stakeholders who define and actually conceptualize the finishing. But it's nowadays with mega project, it's not a single point decision. Architects are a part of many teams, and in a short while I'll take you through the various teams that are actually of which the architects are a part. So initially the finishing are actually conceptualized and chosen by the design architect. So when a project is launched, the client will usually have a main principal architect who will design your project. So the first architect who controls finishing is that design architect. So he will, let us say, he will choose the, let's say, supposing he has chosen granite as one of the finishing. Then, so first he will design the space, he will conceptualize what kind of ambience it needs, then what are the materials that are associated to create that ambience. Once he's even done that, he will detail it in his drawing. He also goes further to write out specifications, like supposing he has chosen granite, then he needs to also go a little further and say whether it's a 10 granite, 20 granite, 40 granite. So then once his role is done, then the entire set of drawings or the project is then passed on to another group, which also has an architect as one of its team players, and that is the project management consultants. So the architect with the project managed consultant, his role in the whole life cycle of the project is to actually do due diligence and see various different various different consultant drawings. Like one set will come from architects, another set will come from the electrical consultant, another set would come from the landscape architect, another set would come from the structure. So he kind of overlaps everything and sees if there are any clashes, and then he gets back to various various consultants to resolve. This is also done preliminary at the architecture office also, but sometimes things get missed out which are needed to be caught by the PMC or the project management consultant architect. He is also mandated to look at the cost angle of the project, because the client gives the project management consultant that the project should cost so much. So he needs to actually look at the cost aspect and then get back to the various teams to modulate it in case it is overshooting the budget. Then once he does his due diligence and all the drawings are coordinated, it comes to the contractor. Now, that's where today's webinar is going to be focused on. So then it comes to the site, and then the site architect also has a major role to play. So I'm going to go here very briefly because maybe later in the conversation we can go over the roles. So the site architect also majorly has two major responsibilities. One is the drawing responsibility, and one are the enabling responsibilities, which we will go into a little further into the conversation. So yes, then of course it goes to the site architect, and then he is the one actually at the forefront of the battle who actually gets things done on site. So yeah. So these are the 3-4 groups which have architects who control the design, the costing, and the execution of finishing.
So I think right from the beginning, the conception of the project till the execution, architect is playing a major role in all aspects of the project till it is done. Now we are going to talk about site architects. So site architects are posted on the site, and what are their roles? Like they look after finishing. So what are they basically doing on the site? So can you just enlighten us?
Yeah, so site architect, like I said, once the drawing set actually or the project details come to the main contractors or GCs as we call them, that is general contractors, they will have site architects posted. So now site architects basically have two different major roles to play. One is their hardcore role, okay, and some other roles and responsibilities are enabling responsibilities. So what are their hardcore role that the site architect plays? One is to make shop drawings. So basically, just because everyone is, just coming into the profession, so I will just touch a little more in detail about shop drawings. Site has information in a quite a fragmented way. Like a lot of information is there in different drawings. But when you have to execute anything on site, you need to open one drawing in which all the information about that area is there. So a drawing which coordinates and has the information of all different kinds of drawing is called shop drawing. So the responsibility of creating a good coordinated shop drawing is one of the major roles that the site architect plays. So he refers to many drawings and then creates the shop drawing. Okay, so that is one role he plays. Second role that he plays is regarding procurement. So nowadays, with global procurement happening, and each package costing, each package means, let's say stone we call one package, kitchen cabinets we call one package, tiling we call one package. So these all these different packages are actually they cost a lot. So we need to do a lot of due diligence before we procure or fix a vendor. So the site architect, because we believe that the architects have a good eye for detail and a good eye in terms of shades and veins. If I look at marble, colors, if I look at color and detailing, if I look at kitchens, if I look, so we prefer nowadays architects to go to, let's say, the quarries or the manufacturers or factories to have a look at the materials before we decide to procure it or not. And with global procurement, I think all the architects are very excited because it helps them travel a lot internationally also. And they get exposure to the best in class products, and over a period of time, they learn how to procure, how to look at the various aspects of procurement. So procurement is one more major responsibility that they have on their shoulders. The other responsibility or the role that they have is because we feel that they have a good eye, they go actually on site and they look at what is built on site. And because they have created the drawings, they're immediately able to catch if something has gotten built which is not as per drawing, or if something, the quality of construction like the line level plumb is out, they're able to catch faster than the other team players. So we are now encouraging architects also to go on the construction floor and do snagging and de-snagging. So that is another third role that they do play. Then the enabling roles are, the planning role, in the sense because the architects are aware of the sequence of construction, and they're also aware how much each activity timelines are, and like how much each activity will take. So they usually will sit down with the planning person and help him to make a construction schedule. So that is one of the other responsibilities that they do have nowadays on site. They also actually have vendor coordination as well as part of their role, because many of the vendors who are not well versed with reading very specialized packages, like facade packages. So the architects will sit down with the vendors and explain to them about the details so that it gets executed correctly and as per the intended design. So these are some of the roles and responsibilities that the architects have.
So we are looking at a wide range of activities that a site architect is doing. The site architect is doing drawing, doing coordination, working with planning teams, actually procuring material, looking at details if it is done properly, talking to vendors. So it's a very vast role I think that a site architect is playing. It's a very important role in construction. So what are the skills and qualities that that a site architect should have? And I think it's a very exciting role. So I'm sure many of our participants are getting excited about knowing will they be able to fit into that role. And since the traveling part is, I think, very exciting, international travel is, great incentive for becoming a site architect. And if you are an outdoor person and you love outdoor, being outdoor, site architect is a great role. So what are the skills or qualities that a site architect should have to efficiently work in that role?
Yeah, Snehal, see, site architect again will need to have some technical skills and some behavioral skills, because as a person also you need to be suited to site life. So in terms of your technical skills, you need to be a multidisciplinary person. You must have a little bit of knowledge of all the services and a bit of structure. But I think architecture course actually does prepare you for a multi-dimensional or a cross-functional approach. And that is okay or enough to start with, because you have seniors on site who will within 15 days, 20 days will guide you, and then you are up to speed. So the first thing is that you need to have cross-functional knowledge. Second is you need to have a bent of mind for detailing. You must enjoy going into the depth to the nut and bolt level. You must have that skill. You should not be a very macro person that, okay, I will just do a concept design in SketchUp, and I will actually just look at the form, and that kind of a person may find it difficult. I won't say that, or may not find it difficult, but may not enjoy going to that extreme shop drawing level. But if you are a person, actually, I'll tell the audience here that it's very rewarding to be a site architect, because you can actually see in 10 days time what you have designed 10 days back, it's actually going to get built in another 10 days or 15 days. So it's a very, very rewarding experience to be on site. So now, having said that, so the second thing that you need to know is detailing. Okay? First is cross-functional knowledge. Second is detailing. Third is nowadays, since everything now is becoming digital, you need to be aware of the latest softwares. Like nowadays, most of our larger projects, they have a tender requirement of BIM. So we need to work on Revit. So you must know AutoCAD, you must know Revit, and not a very overview of Revit, but you must know it in detail because you would be working on Revit extensively. You also need to know some communication softwares like Acronix, etc., because nowadays they are getting used. So all the mails, etc., are through Acronix, so that you can track everything correctly. So that is another. So you need to know your relevant software. Now, in terms of behavioral aspect, you need to be actually a person who is good in communication, because you will need to communicate with the workmen on one end of the spectrum, and you will need to communicate with the project management consultant, architects, clients. The client, they have architects from the client side as well. So you need to communicate with them. You need to write technical mails. You need to explain your shop drawings to the workmen. So you need to have good oral communication, and you need to have a good written communication as well. So communication is really key to being a successful architect, site architect. The other thing is because there are so many teams involved in on the site, and then you need to actually be a collaborator and a person who can work with everyone and uh, get some kind of decision or conclude something. Otherwise, what happens is, if you are going into a meeting with a problem, and say 10 people are involved, you need to quickly convince people about your point of view and conclude that issue. You can't keep issues open on site, because every day costs you money. So that is another thing that you need to have, is the consensus building ability. Another, I won't say requirement, but I would say it's good if you are physically tough, because site work involves a lot of going up and down. So you need to be physically fit for that, because you are on site, okay, 10 hours a day at least. So, but it's fun, because since you are there with the whole team for such a long time, there is extensive bonding, extensive bonding. So it's not a drudgery, I may say. It's great fun to be on site. Great fun to be on site. So I hope that has given some kind of a background to what are the skills required by the site architect.
So I just wanted to ask you, what is the best time to start this profile? Can a fresh architect start, or we need to have certain years of experience to start working as a site architect? So please advise us on that.
No, absolutely, Snehal. You can start immediately after you do your graduation. That's not a problem at all. And we have architects who are fresh from the college. We have architects who have about 5 years experience on site, and we have architects who have about 15 years of experience on site. So each one has their role very much defined, and each of them contribute immensely, and like you had initially said, no, control finishing in very different ways.
Yeah.
So yes, all three are there, and you can join and the learning that you will get and the benefit that the company gets is both fulfilling for both the teams, both the parties. If you join after architecture, you will learn XYZ. If you join after 5 years of experience, you will learn, and the company will benefit in a different way. If you join after 15 years of experience, you will learn different, and the company will get a different benefit in your
Yeah.
journey. Yes.
So if a site architect starts his professional life, like architect starts his professional life being a site architect, so what is the career advantage or the career graph that we are looking for this kind of profile? So what are the steps that they can take to advance in their career, basically?
Yeah, so if you join as a site architect, typically in L&T, what happens is, like I had initially said, you join as a junior architect, and then the roles we have just discussed. Then about 3-4 years, 5 years down the line, when you have a good amount of experience and you've been exposed to all aspects of finishing, design, coordination, and execution, then you kind of become a senior architect, and thereby you are given maybe a part of the site, and then you take care of all aspects of that area, because these are mega projects that we are talking about, and it involves a lot of packages, it involves a lot of commercial angle to it. So initially you are given just maybe the drawings or just the coordination. Then when you in another 4 years time, you're given an area, and then you handle all aspects of that area. When you have about 10 years, 15 years of experience, then you are at a very, very different level. You are actually leading about say 20 to 25 to maybe sometimes 50, 60 architects on site. Like for airports, we have large architecture teams on site. And then you are actually looking at selecting global subcontractors. You are actually looking at mechanization of finishing function. That is, what are the machines that you can hire or buy so that your finishing becomes faster. You are actually sitting down and talking to the bosses of the PMC. You are looking at the cost angles. You are looking at the wastage angles. You are looking at how to improve your profit by controlling processes in finishing. So when you are at a 15 or 20 years of experience, the commercial aspects of finishing come into play. So from a junior architect to a lead architect, you can progress very smoothly depending on your capability and your liking across say 10 years or 15 years of period.
Yeah, ma'am. As you mentioned, now the scale of the projects that we are seeing is expanding exponentially. Like we are growing from a single building project to multiple buildings complexes in residential. Then we have huge commercial complex coming up. There are infrastructure projects. There are airports getting built. Then even railways are trying to build something, multi-use kind of a railway stations where there are commercial activities and railway stations and retail activities. So the scale of the projects that we are witnessing right now is getting bigger and bigger, and it will not be possible in future to work without having a architect involved in getting its finishing done. And I always feel that the ambience that is created guides the behavior of the people. So we are like right now, even our government is looking at creating some international airports, or which can be competed with the other international airports that we have, or infrastructure projects that will compete with European or US or Australian infrastructure projects. So in all these projects, the role of an architect will be very important. So a site architect will have a great uh, trajectory in terms of its professional career. And I think maybe like you are doing, being a finishing head, that is something that is the will be required at a larger, there'll be multiple people who will be hiring people like you who have a lot of experience, who have gone from all phases of the project, and they understand a lot of different aspects, like as you mentioned, the coordination, the costing, wastage, procurement, and design intent, and use, and have a good eye, have a lot of these qualities. So I think in future we are looking at a very different role, like say finishing lead architect or something. So what
Yes,
is your prediction
definitely.
about
We
that?
actually, Snehal, to tell you the truth, we already on all the airports we have architects who are very, very experienced. We have architects who maybe have 20, 25 years of experience. Out of that, some of them have about 10 years of international experience. They have worked in international architecture firms, and now they are working with us because that is the kind of experience that is required on mega projects now. And definitely, most of the airport projects, at least, or the very large convention centers, convention center projects, or government projects, which have very high-end finishes, it is almost mandatory, and the client is also insisting that we have a very, very senior and experienced architect. And definitely, as you say, that profile is there, and I'm sure a lot of architects now will realize that that's a very fulfilling and lucrative role as well. And you get exposed to the best in class technology, best in class design, best in class everything, and you're at the forefront of uh, everything when you're on site. It's not theoretical that you're talking about. It's every day you are actually pushing the envelope.
Okay. So I think for our audience, if you're a hands-on person, if you like to see things getting built, what you have conceived in your mind, you actually want to see it. Site architect is a very good role for that. You see drawings and then you see it constructed. And there is a lot of different activities that a site architect do. It's not just looking at monitoring the construction. It is a lot of activities that ma'am was talking about. There is procurement, and there is coordination, and there is you are involved in planning and budgeting, and there is also a good amount of scope to develop in this field. So I'm sure many of you now would be interested in becoming a site architect. So there's one question from Ankita Arora who wants to know, do you need a specific degree or any other course to become a site architect?
Actually, Ankita, you don't need another degree to become a site architect. After your graduation, you can become a site architect. But some of the architects are also nowadays doing the project management course, which is available with NICMAR also. So they are doing that and then also joining us to become site architects.
Okay. So project management courses helps in understanding the
management courses help, yes, a bit, but that's not mandatory. It's not mandatory.
If you directly want to join as a site architect, it's also fine. You can learn
is also
okay.
Experience. Yes.
Okay, the next question we have is, how different is the role of construction manager from the site architect?
So typically in L&T, a construction manager is a person who is taking care of the RCC aspect of it, and also sometimes if they are experienced enough, they do finishing, but they're definitely not involved either in procurement or making shop drawings. So with execution aspect of it, they are involved, but not with the other design aspect of it. So that's the difference between a site architect and a construction manager. And construction manager is a little senior person in L&T. So he is next in line to the project manager or the project director who heads the project on the site. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? And I would also like to just tell you one thing that the girls are also involved in being site architects. I have seen a lot of girls on the site as well. So there is no gender bias in being in this profile. Uh, so and
In
it's
fact, we
equally.
prefer girls.
Oh.
They are more sincere. They are more sincere. Sorry to say. Initially there was resistance from the project managers because they felt that they would leave earlier and they would have issues about site, about their safety, etc. But now all that is gone. In fact, the project managers are now requesting that if you have fresh girl architects, they are more than happy to have them. And the girl architects also every time prove that they are as good, if not better.
So it is
So Snehal,
just, yeah, on your talent, on your liking for the profile, you can be a girl or a boy, you can work on that. So it's a very good thing to know. And there's another question, does knowledge on green building system or certification helps in this profile?
Yes, definitely. Some of our buildings are, they need either Griha or LEED certification, and that is part of the tender requirement. So, like we are currently just started IIT Bhilai, which needs to be Griha 5-star rated. So we have a Griha champion on site. So that is, if that is a requirement for the project, definitely we will have a person who is dedicated, because there is through the project cycle there is a lot of documentation requirement. So we do have that role as a Griha champion on site, and he will do all the due diligence for Griha or LEED certification documentation, or like you need to stockpile the topsoil, etc. So they will ensure that all that is done on site. Yes.
I think that knowledge will help you definitely. If you have that certification knowledge, it helps you in any role actually. So it's good
Yes,
to know.
absolutely.
It helps you if you're on site and if it's a GRIHA project, you know exactly what is required and you will execute it accordingly. So it's not you're just following instruction, you understand what you're doing. So I think
Yeah.
definitely it will help.
But it is
Any other?
not rocket science. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very simple. It's very simple. You do one project and then you understand it for life.
Yeah. And I think now everybody is trying to follow it, whether they are going for certification or not. They are following this just for the environment purpose, just because they are conscious about the environment. This practice will be going on. This will be there in all the projects henceforth. The next question we have is from Shubham Jain, who is asking how to get the knowledge for tender filing work for fresh architects. Tender filling. Tender filling.
Tender filling. No, the site architect does not do tender filling. That
There
is
is.
not his role.
Yeah, there is a separate profile for contracts which we have on our website. So you can go through that. It's a completely different kind of skill set that is required for being filling tenders. You have to be very meticulous. You have to be good in specification, and you have to know rules, regulations, and a lot of other skills are required for that. So I would request Shubham, you should go to the website architectsofworld.com and look at the profiles over there. You will find something that will interest you. If you are interested in working on tenders, there are different profiles which if you are you enjoy doing that kind of work, there are different profiles that will help you over there. Then Priyank Jain is having the next question. Ma'am, how can one increase knowledge about materials? Like if I join new job next 2 or 3 months, how can I increase idea about new and good finishes?
About materials, see, there is no shortcut. Once you are on the on any site, you will be given the tender in which all the details of the materials will be there. Now, once you read through the tender requirements of that particular material, and they are very exhaustively given usually in all the tenders, so that there is no ambiguity between what is requested by the client or the design concept architect and the contractor. Then if you want to know very much in detail, then there are IS codes for that material also. For each material, there will be IS codes, and then you can read about the different qualities of the material that you need to know, and what are the required or acceptable values for that, you know. So let us say tiles, and if you want to know really in depth about tiles, it is there in IS codes. Also, to a certain extent, it is there in NBC also. So both these sources will give you detailed technical knowledge about the materials. Now, that would be about the material properties themselves. Regarding how to use that material on site, every material will have something called method statement. So we will write in great detail. Let us say we want to do tile flooring. How we will do the tile flooring. All the steps are written in great detail. So even if you know nothing about tile flooring, by reading that method statement, you will know everything about how it needs to be executed in detail to site. So you don't need to worry. All that knowledge would be given to you on site once you join.
And if you really want to know what material is available in market, I think the exhibitions that happen, material exhibitions, that's the best place to look around and go to these material exhibition and collect information about those materials. There are representatives standing there ready to explain you. So if you are a young architect and looking for exploring material, I think exhibitions are good place now. Because of our situation, it might get a little postponed, but even materials have websites, so their websites are have extensive information about material composition and things like that. So we can you can even do it online in this situation. But as ma'am said, NBC and IS code has a lot of information about
yeah, actually every if you know of a material, every manufacturer will have a docket telling you details about that material. So you can always write in, or it is available on the net also nowadays. Everything is available on the net. You just type in your material and you will get your material details. So that is another way of exploring. You don't need to go also anywhere. So
knowledge is available. The seeker has to
on one click of the button. Yeah. Yes, it is. A lot of times we do that. If we are unable to source the material test reports or their submittals, we need to submit the details of the material. They are all available on the net.
Okay, the next question is from Sunil Kumar. He's asking, physical handicapped architect can they work on site as a site architect? Can they work as a site architect?
Little difficult, to be very honest. Little difficult, because part of their role is also going on the floor and checking whether construction is happening as per the drawings. But shop drawings, definitely you can do. Services coordination, definitely you can do. No issue at all. But it would be difficult for you to, because the approach may not be very easy to go to this to the construction level. So that would be a challenge. But otherwise, office work would be like any other office, because we do have very good offices on site also. It's almost like maybe not so fancy, but a comfortable air-conditioned office is available on every L&T site. So that is possible, but maybe not going to the floor, the construction. Yeah, that would be.
I think we have a lot of sites which are accessible also. So if there is some condition, maybe we have lifts, we have ramps. So some part might be accessible to those people. And if we have certain person, might be some arrangements could be done for that. If that person is really capable architect with on special
I
request.
will not lie here, Snehal, because the safety requirements
Ah,
may or may not allow.
okay.
Because many times the slabs are not barricaded, and then if you are, I don't know what the condition is and what the physical problem is or the challenge is. So I may not be able to comment very extensively, but I am not sure whether the safety people for one single person, if they need to do extensive safety requirement, that may be a challenge.
Okay. Okay. So, moving to the next question, is this job restricted to working for real estate construction companies, or are these their firm that specialize in site architecture?
No, sorry, construction, real estate. No, for general contractors also. In fact, I was talking about general contractors. So not the real estate players, say like Hiranandani. They also have site architects. But the site architect role which I spoke about was from the contractors side, general contractors side.
Okay. So, specialization in site architecture, I don't think so. We have firms like that. We have project management firms.
Yes.
We don't have, I have not heard of site, the specialized.
Specialization is also possible, Snehal. What happens is in very specialized packages like facade.
Hmm.
So if you are specialized in facade, and for some reason, from architecture, you have handled facade a lot, and then you get hired by these very large international facade companies, and then you specialize as architect in facade design. So that is actually a specialization that is coming up now with all these lot of glazed buildings coming up. So that specialization is available.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah,
for stone,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Again,
please.
for stone, people, very large international subcontractors who are, who take up back-to-back work. They have specialized architects who deal only in stone. So they will know exactly which quarry has which stone, what are the good lots, how to pick them up. So there are architects who are specializing in stone procurement also. So
Oh.
stone and glazing are two of the specialized architects that I have come up.
Yeah, I have also come across, like we have this profile called facade consultants on our listed on our website as a profile. So these are very specialized job who work with facade manufacturers who are involved in facade designing and execution right from the start to the end. So that's a completely different kind of a work. So I would request you to really look at that facade consultant profile on the website and see if you're interested in that. So some of the site related hands-on kind of work profiles are listed on Architects of World. So please go there and read through it. You might be interested in more than one profile. Taking the next question, are lean construction methods used practically?
Yes, of course, lean construction methods are getting used extensively, right from the design stage, or people are designing for lean construction, and even while executing, we are following to a large extent. I'm not saying, and to not for all the projects. Some of the projects, yes, definitely we are adopting lean construction, and a lot of designers are adopting lean methods for designing as well. They and we are able to bring down costs also say to about 5 to 10% because of that.
Ma'am, I think you need to explain a little bit about what is lean construction for benefit of everybody.
See, okay. Broadly, lean construction involves, there are many, it's a whole different topic itself. Uh, Here, what happens is in lean construction, let me just give one example because otherwise it'll just take too long. We want to, it has actually come from lean manufacturing. Okay, so it started with Honda actually uh, trying to put into action, let me say, concepts like just in time delivery, not doing everything on your own, a lot of standardization which is happening. So when you pick up things off the shelf, let me say, supposing you are doing a aluminum window, okay, and then you realize that the length of the section available in the market is 6, 7 feet or 8 feet, whatever. So you design your window in such a way that you don't waste anything. Okay. Then, so you design in a standardized way so that your wastages of every material that you are using is minimal. It may be your aluminum sections, it may be your door window, it may be your tiles, it may be anything that is coming. Then the other thing is that you don't stock your material for a long time and block your cash flow. So a lot of other things are involved in lean construction, and to some extent we are trying that out in some of our design and build projects now. Uh, uh, but the time has not yet come here to fully go all blast for that. But slowly everyone is accepting because initially there is some capital expenditure involved, but we are moving towards it definitely.
Do the architect have to stick to one project till its execution, or it is possible to work on couple of projects simultaneously?
No, you are posted on one site only. So you take care of only one project.
And it is a
As
lot of
site architect,
work.
it's a
And
lot of work. It's a
yeah,
lot
it
of work.
itself is a
One
lot of
project
work.
is
So
more
you
than
be
enough.
thankful if they are posting you on one side at a time.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but
Because
once you
you
move to
go
a higher,
very much deep.
when you move to in your career, when you move to a higher level, that time you are maybe handling, like our ma'am said, there are 30, 20 architects under you. So that time you
Yeah.
are involved in more than one project.
See, I'll tell you now, currently I have about maybe 25 projects that I'm looking after, if not more. At one point of time when there was a boom, I was looking after 30, 35 projects. But for me, it was macro involvement. When you're on site, it is micro involvement. So one project is more than enough.
So the next question that we have is, ma'am, is project management the only specific degree which is suitable to become a site architect?
No, as I said, you can become a site architect immediately after your architecture course also. NICMAR actually, or project management course actually gives you a little more overview or little experience about project management and construction management so that you are a little aware of what happens on site, but that you pick up in about 2 months time. And I'll tell you something, you pick up faster on site than when you're doing a course, because when you're doing a course it's all theory, you are just it's a concept only, whereas it is life, that is life for you on site. So within 1 month you know everything, that kind of, if you are proactive and you talk to other teams, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. You pick up.
Snehal, I have one question. This is Abhijit Damre, architect.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, as ma'am spoke about the IO and AI, that is the change that is happening nowadays, and there is something called 3D printing tech, in construction also. Will this lead to some other dynamics in the field of site architecture or site construction methodology? Because the world is moving on to next in terms of digital. So
Yeah.
does this call for some specialization or some extra kind of upgrading of skills as of now?
Abhijit, actually it does not. We are also experimenting with 3D printing technology.
Yeah.
We have actually tried it in-house, and we are able to 3D print for ground plus one structures nowadays. The
Yeah.
only issue in 3D printing are twofold. One is the reinforcement insertion in the 3D printed walls, and the second is actually the commercial aspect of it. There is a special mix that you need to have for 3D printing of your whatever single unit, because currently only single units have been tested for 3D printing.
Correct. It has a limitation.
The cost of that is currently prohibitive. So till that is how every technology comes. When it comes into the market, it is usually expensive, and it takes some while to make it commercially viable. So that is the junction at which we are. It is available. We have tried it in-house. But still we are finding it difficult to convince clients to adopt it at a mass commercial scale. I would like to answer one more thing. We are actually thinking of going precast very aggressively also, because when you adopt precast technology, your labor requirement is about 1/10. Your quality also increases, your speed increases, and because it is completely mechanized. On many of our projects, we are going precast now.
So, ma'am, thank you very much for a very enlightened session. We really enjoyed, and it was a lot of information that we have got from you. And it was great connecting with you, great talking to you. And I think there are a lot of comments coming in that the session was enjoyed by everybody. So thank you very much for your time and insightful discussion. We really, really enjoyed.
Thank you, Snehal. It was a pleasure being with all of you. I hope it has helped some of you decide either way. I hope to see many of you becoming site architects now.
Oh, yeah.
And please feel free to connect with me. If you need any further information regarding not only site architects but in construction, how architects can help. So please feel free.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much for attending. Be connected with us. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Snehal.
Thank you. Thank you.